Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. This is Shonda. Today we're going to be talking about pregnancy and chemotherapy at the same time. Pregnancy is already a journey and a process to go through for one, but when you add on chemotherapy with the cancer on top of that, it's something else. And I've never heard of a pregnant woman going through chemotherapy, probably until I started going through it myself. And even then, there's not a lot of women that have gone through that while pregnant. So while pregnant and before we started the chemotherapy, we met with the oncologist and just to have a rundown about the chemotherapy regimen I was taking or getting ready to take. My first question every time I met with somebody and they told me what we would be doing in the process, my first question every single time: will this hurt the baby? How would it affect the baby? Will the baby be okay if we do that? My only concern during that pregnancy was my child that I needed to bring into this world. I really didn't think beyond the chemotherapy and what we would be doing after that. I just wanted to focus on getting my child here safely and healthily. Luckily, I was about to start my third trimester when I was diagnosed. So starting chemotherapy while pregnant was safe for the baby. I made sure of that, asking everybody I talked to. So that was good to know, because I just wanted to make sure that everything was developing correctly. There would be no issues with getting the baby here, especially being pregnant during COVID. Having to go to appointments alone was a little terrifying in a sense, just because you want your significant other to be able to hear about everything that's going on with your pregnancy. And when they can't come with you, it's really tough sometimes. You just feel like you're alone. And then on top of that, going through the chemotherapy affects your memory and just affects your whole body, and you don't know exactly what all it affects until you're going through it. But going to those appointments alone and then having to relay the information back to my husband about what was going on about the pregnancy, just giving updates and stuff, that was really tough, just because sometimes I can't even remember what we just talked about when I just got out of the appointment. But luckily my OB, she allowed me to either FaceTime or call my husband while we were in the appointments. That way he could hear everything that was going on as well, because I don't think I would have been able to remember to tell him everything that we talked about during those appointments. So everyone knows while you're pregnant, you're just extremely exhausted. Well, on chemotherapy, your energy gets wiped out as well. So imagine being 7-8 months pregnant and going through the chemotherapy. Like, all I want to do is sleep. All I want to do is sit in bed. Mind you, I was carrying a pretty big baby. By the time he was due, he was 9 pounds 10 ounces. So yeah, he was huge. But just that tiredness is just on another level. It's to the extreme. I remember going into my first chemotherapy appointment, which I was on the regimen of carboplatin and Taxol. And for pre-medications, they give you Benadryl and steroids and some other stuff, nausea medicine, whatever. But that Benadryl took me out. So every time we went in for chemotherapy, I would look forward to my 2-3 hour naps that I would get just while sitting in the chemotherapy getting that done. Just because that would be really a great, like, one of the best naps that I got in my life. Also, while we had my chemotherapy appointments, me and my husband would make those our day dates. Just because we didn't get out much anyways with COVID and then having to find babysitters and such. So while we were at my chemotherapy appointment, my husband would go get us lunch and we would sit in there and eat and just have a little date day. I don't know if the other patients got tired of it. If they did, sorry, but our food always smells so good. But those day dates and having him there with me made going through chemotherapy while pregnant just really easy, especially because usually during chemotherapy you don't want to eat a lot because it just messes with you, giving you nausea and things like that. But I was still pregnant, so I still craved a lot and still wanted to eat food. And speaking of cravings, in August of 2020, while I was pregnant, while I was fighting cancer, I came down with COVID. Yeah, my husband got COVID first, and we tried to isolate at home, knowing that I was pregnant and knowing that I was going through chemotherapy. My body just can't fight off things that it should, the way it should. But I ended up also getting it, and of course, I called my OB because I called her literally anytime something happened. I called her. We got me set up an appointment to get tested to see if I tested positive for COVID, which I did. And going into the hospital to get tested for COVID, I didn't expect to stay overnight. Well, I ended up spending 3 days there alone because you're positive for COVID. It's a maternity ward, so they're not letting spouses in anyways, unless you're delivering at that time, in which I wasn't. So my husband couldn't come with me. So here I am in the hospital, fighting COVID, fighting breast cancer, and pregnant, just laying in a room all alone. I don't even think I really watched TV. I had like Ion Network going or something like that just to have noise in the background. But I was just there because they wanted to monitor me. Luckily, my symptoms weren't that bad. I did have loss of taste, loss of smell. I had headaches and like a runny nose. But other than that, everything was good. They looked at my chest or an x-ray to see, make sure no fluid was building up so I wouldn't get pneumonia. But everything looked pretty good. So after about 3 days, they let me go back home and I just fought it off back home. So having COVID and losing your sense of taste, imagine being pregnant, losing your sense of taste, and having cravings. I had cravings for like Tahitian treat or like I can't even remember what other cravings I had, but one in particular was a Tahitian treat. I needed a Tahitian treat run, and it was during the time that I had COVID and I lost my taste. I couldn't even taste it. I was so mad because I had that craving and I just needed that taste. It was just horrible. But luckily I didn't have any other cravings. I think my only craving during the pregnancy, like that I had bad, was Sonic Ice. I just needed Sonic Ice. And it wasn't even to chew on or to just crunch on. It was like I had to have ice cold water all day, every day. Like my husband probably made 4 or 5 trips in a week to Sonic just to get us bags of Sonic Ice just because I needed it that bad. But I thank him for that. Luckily, me and my husband got past that, and we're still here fighting this breast cancer thing. So towards the end of my pregnancy, it was the time to get ready to think about delivery and how that was going to look. Closer to my delivery, we set an induction date for when I was 37 weeks. And with that, we stopped my chemotherapy regimen about 2 weeks prior to that, just so my body could get my blood counts back up, get some strength for delivery, because I wanted to try to have this baby naturally and not have to do a C-section. But we got to our induction date. We got to the hospital at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I was set to be induced 6:30. They got me in there, got everything taken care of, and I think it was around like 4 or so where I was dilated to 8, and I just felt like I needed to start pushing. Mind you, I said baby was 9 pounds 10 ounces, so we tried pushing. I probably pushed for about an hour and a half, and I just felt like the baby wasn't gonna come out. So instead of putting my body through all of that, we ended up going for emergency C-section, and baby boy was delivered, 9 pounds 10 ounces, came out over top of they held him over top of the curtain, and he was just peeing, and he almost peed in my face. So that's how he welcomed himself into this world, by almost peeing on my face. But I remember being on that surgery table during the C-section and just feeling this weight of relief when my baby was finally here. It was just a weight of relief taken off my shoulders. I cried. I was praising God. If I could get up and walk at that time, I'll probably be running around the surgery room, just because it was so much relief just to have my child here healthy and safe. Like, I just remember yelling, I did it. Thank you, Jesus. Just because I didn't know what that pregnancy was going to entail, with me going through chemotherapy and trying to fight off this breast cancer while trying to bring a child into this world healthy and alive. So that was a really scary time, but the relief and the feeling I got while on that table, just I don't even, it's unexplainable. Like, I don't know how to explain it to you guys, but I was just so happy my baby was here, safe, alive, screaming and peeing. And now every day I'm just looking at him and he's looking back at me, and those smiles just get me through everything. So, some side effects of the chemotherapy while I was pregnant. One major one was I started to lose my hair. I didn't really lose the hair on my head while pregnant because I kept my hair braided up or in crochets or just box braids or anything like that. But I noticed towards the end of the pregnancy, I started to lose my hair elsewhere, ladies down their area, which was a good thing because it was right before I gave birth. So that means I didn't have to go down there and clean up or nothing. Sorry if it's TMI for everybody, but that means I didn't have to go and do nothing prior to delivery. I was good. But I started losing, I didn't have to shave my legs no more because I started losing the hair on my legs, my arms, and my armpits. So, like, it didn't really affect me that I was going through chemotherapy until I started losing those things. But then afterwards, when I lost my hair after I gave birth, that's when it was just like, yeah. But you guys can go back and look at that video of when I did lose my hair and when I went bald in that hair crisis. But that was one side effect, was losing my hair. Another side effect was neuropathy. And that's when your fingers and your toes are numb or tingly. I started to feel that while I was pregnant, only in my toes. Usually they say putting ice during chemotherapy kind of helps with that, but it didn't really seem to help me at all. But it didn't really affect me either. It just was a weird feeling in my toes that was just, I could tell wasn't normal. That's one side effect of chemotherapy. I'm sorry if you can see my son's feet, but he's content right here, so hey, he'll sit here and watch me record. Another side effect is also my nails started to turn a little black, which is weird. It's still happening right now, as you can kind of see. Yeah, I need to paint them because I don't like looking at this, but I usually don't have the energy to paint and take off the gel at the same time. So also just going to different doctor's appointments and things like that, they'd also always ask you questions about, like, do you have this feeling, do you have this feeling, what's going on here, what's going on there. But while I was pregnant, it was just kind of hard to tell what side effects were from what. I didn't know if I was tired from chemotherapy or tired from pregnancy. I didn't know if my back was aching from the pregnancy or if that was the chemotherapy. It was just hard to tell, and that became frustrating because it's like, I don't know what's affecting me and what's causing this. But I told every single doctor everything that was going on with me because I didn't know who was the right person to go to and tell. Another event while I was pregnant that I vaguely remember while going through this chemotherapy, in my mind I just try to be as normal as possible, or want to be as normal as possible. So I try to do normal things that I would still do if I wasn't pregnant or fighting cancer. So one weekend, I just wanted to cook brunch for my family, cook French toast. Pregnant at all, so I think this was now probably around 8-9 months pregnant. I just wanted to cook French toast for my family. And just tired from the pregnancy. As I said, my son was about 9 pounds then, in the chemotherapy, that I couldn't even make it through cooking some French toast. And being pregnant, I was so emotional. So I just started to cry because I'm just like, I don't understand why I'm not able to just cook some French toast for my family, or just do something so simple for my family that I can't even do. I'm used to taking care of my family, taking care of my kids, but I just was not able to, and I had to listen to my body and it told me that, hey, you need to sit down. And so my husband ended up taking over for me during that time while I was cooking, because I started crying and I couldn't make it through. But I say this all to say that if you're out there and you're pregnant and you've been diagnosed with breast cancer or any cancer, and you're going through chemotherapy, it is possible. You will make it to the other side. As many times as I thought that I wasn't gonna make it, every time I told my husband, just get this baby out of me, there's light at the end of the tunnel. My son is here. He's good and healthy. He brightens up my world these days, especially still going through the chemotherapy and such. I just wanted to put this out there just in case there is somebody else that's going through it and they're looking for some encouragement or anything like that, because I know if I didn't tell some of my friends that I was going through it, I wouldn't be getting some of the encouragement that I do every day, and I thank you guys for that. So just in case somebody doesn't have somebody out there, this is for you. You got this, girl. You got this. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe to my channel to get notifications for when I post new videos. Stay tuned for my next video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends and family. You never know who's going through this or something and just needs some type of encouragement and doesn't talk about it. Love you guys. Bye.